Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers took some spicy shots at the Pittsburgh Steelers ahead of their Week 16 divisional showdown. We talk about that. Quarterbacks, current and former, defending Lamar Jackson, and so much more coming up next here on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostraker of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe as well. It's the same show, both in audio and video, so you're not missing out regardless of if you choose to watch or listen on any content there. And of course, we're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens podcast. So if you want some Ravens news, analysis, updates, and more on the daily, or if someone you know wants some daily Ravens coverage, be sure to keep it locked in here on Locked On Ravens. Today's midweek edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use all lowercase Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Use that code again, Locked On NFL. We are back on this midweek edition episode. We have a lot to dive into. The Ravens obviously face a massive test against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 16, coming off of their big Week 15 win against the New York Giants. We're going to be talking about in the first part of the show, Zay Flowers taking some spicy shots at the Steelers during his media availability on Tuesday. It's weird. The Saturday game has me all sorts of messed up in terms of what days of the week things happen on. So everything is obviously sped up a day. So the media availability, which usually happens on Wednesday, happened on Tuesday. We'll talk about what Zay had to say about the Steelers and kind of dive into that situation. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Lamar Jackson. Obviously, the MVP race is a conversation between Lamar and Josh Allen. It's heating up. Legendary quarterbacks, a Ravens legend, and also somebody who is going to be a future Hall of Famer, most likely, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions too. Talked about Lamar Jackson. So we'll talk about that. Lamar's former teammate actually talked about him as well. So we'll talk about all that. And then finally, we're going to be diving into the Ravens penalty problems, which are pretty bad. We'll talk about the stats behind them and what the Ravens can do to fix them. So let's talk about Zay Flowers taking some spicy shots at the Steelers here. Obviously, the mindset and the message of the Ravens this week is they're not happy that the record is what it is against Pittsburgh. They've lost eight of their last 9 games to the Steelers. We all know that. Zay was asked about the Steelers defense and what they do to make things difficult, since obviously, Zay hasn't had the most success, as we talked about Pittsburgh. And Zay says nothing. They don't really do anything that really stresses me, if I'm being honest. So, those are some fighting words, especially because, look, I don't know how that comment's going to be taken, or if anyone from Pittsburgh is going to say, oh, that's bulletin board material. That's bulletin board material. Pittsburgh's pass defense has been middling this season. It's, hasn't been great, hasn't been terrible. They're 14th in the league in terms of net yards per attempt through the air, giving up 6.1. And, you have guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., et cetera. Deshaun Elliott obviously has played a role for them this season as well. And, they're fine. But Zay apparently thinks nothing of it. And what he ended up chalking it up to, he ended up saying, to finish out his answer, you have some down games, and the Week 11 game ended up being that game. So we'll figure it out when we get there. This week we've got him, so I'm looking forward to that. So, look, Zay has to back this up, as do all the Ravens, by the way. Seems like as we talked about, they're unhappy with the 8 losses in 9 games. They want to make it a rivalry again because, look, we can be honest. Right now, Pittsburgh really has taken the soul of Baltimore over the past handful of seasons. You have to be able to back up your talk here. So if Zay goes out there and has just a clunker game and doesn't really do anything, we're going to look back on these comments and be like, okay, is it another down game? Like what's going on here? So I think for Zay, look, I love the confidence, right? I love the confidence of Zay Flowers. You have to go in with this mindset too. You can't just be like, oh, that defense is so scary and so tough. How am I going to be able to be me? How am I going to be able to have a good game? You can't go in thinking that way. You have to go in thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to go out there and dominate. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but you have to have confidence in yourself. And so I like that the Ravens, Zay, Lamar, everybody has been taking that approach. But still, these are some spicy comments from Zay because who knows if, the Steelers are going to get a hold of him or, try to use it as motivation for the game because the Ravens need to win this game. If they don't, their AFC North division chances are done. I mean, literally. I mean, it's not like, oh, it's so over. It's literally mathematically they'd be eliminated from winning the division. So to me, I think that Zay is somebody that I trust, right? I think a lot of people trust Zay in most situations. He's only played in 2 games against the Steelers, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, the Steelers have Zay's number based off of 2 games. For Lamar, it's been a little more than 2 games, even though, and we'll talk about some of the Lamar Pittsburgh stats, which are actually pretty crazy now that I think about it, and I've been thinking about it. I put some of them out on social media. Lamar has never played in front of a full stadium at M&T Bank ever in a 6-year career. Well, starter career. Obviously, he's played 7 years. This is the 7th season, but this is his 6th as a starter. He's never played in front of a full stadium at M&T Bank Stadium because of the fact that he's only played in 1 game. He's only started 1 game against the Steelers at M&T Bank Stadium. He's only started 1, and that was back in 2020. That was during the pandemic, and that's when they only let 4,000 fans into the stadium. That's the only time Lamar Jackson has played. And I saw the graphics circulating from a couple of people on social media as well about Lamar and what it's looked like for him at home against the Steelers. 2018, he didn't start, right? Didn't start that game. 2019, didn't have to start because the 1 seed was secure. You remember that where the Ravens played RG3? It's a hint for the second part of the show, by the way. 2020. That's the game that Lamar played in. They lost that game 28-24. Remember, there was that should have been pass interference on Willie Snead, who was the Ravens' leading receiver. Crazy how far we've come since those days, by the way. So the Ravens lost that game, and Lamar tried to play hero ball at the end, but just couldn't get the job done. 2021, he was injured. 2022, he was injured. 2023, same thing as 2020 or 2019, where Week 18, the number 1 seed, they had it locked up. So Lamar didn't play. It was Tyler Huntley time. So Lamar, that 2020 game is the only time he's played in front of fans at M&T Bank Stadium against the Steelers. And this is a big moment for everybody because for Zay Flowers making comments like that, now you have to double back it up. Now you have to go out there and prove it to back up your comments and to say, hey, not just for the team, because the team obviously is going to have that mindset of like, we need to win for each other. We need to win to, get a big momentum boost here and show the Steelers that we're not the little bros, like this, that, and the other. But now they have to go out there and back those comments up against guys like Joey Porter Jr. and who else goes out there, Dante Jackson and everybody. So I think that he can do it. Like, I expect Zay to have a decent game in this one. And look, if Zay has 5 catches for 60 yards in this game, 5 catches for 70 yards, that's a good game. That's a good game. So I don't want, people to say, oh, Zay has to have 150 yards in order to back up these comments. Zay says that nothing stresses him out about the Steelers in the pass defense, right? There's nothing that stresses him out. So I guess ideally he should have a good game because if not, I don't really want to know what those conversations look like, especially in a loss. So Zay getting a little spicy with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming up in the second part of the show, we will talk about legendary quarterbacks defending Lamar Jackson. We got a Ravens legend, and we got also a legendary quarterback as well on multiple different fronts. Stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about on the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, do live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So for the Ravens and Giants game, if you had Tez Walker anytime touchdown, you're probably living large over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And the show is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. We're back our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this midweek edition of the show. Appreciate everybody for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day. First listen each and every single day as well. If you're here with us on our journey in video form, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Just hit 10,000 subscribers. And of course, as I always do, I will bring up my 10,000 post-it sticky note like Wilt Chamberlain did when he scored 100 points. So appreciate everybody for getting the show to that point in video form. And here's the next 10,000 there in audio form. That community's growing each and every single day as well. Started that up a couple years, obviously, before video form. So be sure to follow along and subscribe over there as well. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Word of mouth, still very, very important in today's social media age. But let's talk about some quarterbacks defending Lamar Jackson. And if you're new to the show or you don't know how I operate sometimes, we'll start off with Aaron Rodgers, who was somebody who's had a great legendary career. Obviously, Green Bay hasn't been as great since leaving Green Bay. In fact, really, it hasn't been great at all since leaving Green Bay. But obviously, Super Bowl winner, and he's somebody that, in terms of quarterback, he's been really good over the course of his career. He's one of the best, at least was, during his prime. And now, obviously, kind of disappointment in New York. But he talked about Lamar Jackson on the Pat McAfee show and made it actually a point to talk about him, which I thought was really, really cool. Made multiple points about how Lamar has evolved his game and ended up saying, look, can we not actually gloss over here what Lamar's doing? He says, can we not just gloss over what Lamar's doing? I love watching Lamar play and love to see his continual growth and how he changes the game. He's so dynamic, but he's become such an elite passer. He talked about a lot of other things as well in his comments about specific moments that he's liked and other games from Lamar. But it's really cool to see the acknowledgement, right, from someone in Aaron Rodgers who has had so much success at the NFL level. Again, I know it hasn't been great in New York. It's been pretty awful since he left Green Bay. But still, for somebody who's done as much as Aaron Rodgers has done on the field at the NFL level is incredible. And to have all that on-field success and, shout out Lamar like that and make sure Lamar gets his flowers, especially in the media landscape right now, which is Josh Allen, MVP, Josh Allen. It's over, Josh Allen. It's nice to see that. It's refreshing to see that. So it was really cool because, look, Aaron is right. He's a dynamic player, but the evolution of his game everywhere. It's not just the passer. He's evolved everywhere. Every quarterback coming out of college, they need to evolve in some way, shape, or form. No one is the perfect prospect coming out of college and 100% their NFL ceiling the second they come out of school. Everybody needs that development. Lamar Jackson needed it. Everybody needs it. And it's been really cool over the course of his career. And obviously Aaron believes this too, to see him grow and mature and have the game slow down and understand nuances. Like, all of that's been so awesome to see. And it's happening every single season. Like, again, Lamar's a vet in the league now. This is year 7. He's getting up there in age. Not actually. He's not 30 yet. We're slowly getting there, which is crazy to talk about, but he's not 30 yet. He's still evolving each and every single season. We were talking about, last year, 2023, best Lamar Jackson we've seen. When are we going to see it again? Well, here we are, a year later, talking about the new best Lamar Jackson that we've ever seen. And that's what it feels like a little bit lately, right? With what Aaron Rodgers said there. Can we not gloss over it? Lamar throws 5 touchdowns. He has more touchdowns than incompletions. And apparently the narrative is, it was the Giants. Or, look what Josh Allen did. Josh Allen's a heck of a player. Absolute baller, right? it just feels like it's all about Josh Allen. And look, Josh deserves plenty of praise, much like Lamar deserves plenty of praise. But one player is dominating the media cycle and one player is not. Now, is it all that important? No. At the end of the day, Baltimore beat up on Buffalo. Lamar's stats are better than Josh Allen. It's whatever. Both players deserve to be in the MVP conversation, but it is nice to see him get recognition here from Aaron Rodgers. And he also got recognition from former teammate Robert Griffin III, Ravens legend Robert Griffin III. Come on now. Again, if you don't know how I operate, I mostly use Ravens legend in jest. Like, obviously, Aaron Rodgers on the field, legendary quarterback, legendary career. When I say Ravens legend, I'm talking about like, Ravens legend James Prochet, right? Ravens legend Jeremy Butler, even guys like who didn't even play for them. Ravens legend Julio Jones. So Ravens legend Robert Griffin III, who, by the way, actually was a legendary mentor, like, all seriousness, legendary mentor for Lamar Jackson. I think he was a big part of Lamar's development over the early stages of his career. So I'm actually not joking about that part. I think RG3 was a legendary, I guess, mentor and vet in that quarterback room for Lamar when it was obviously Lamar, Joe Flacco, and RG3. But RG3 stood up for Lamar Jackson. He went on the Kay Adams show, and he talked about a lot of the MVP race. And Kay asked him, hey, is the MVP race over? Is it? And RG3 says, no, it is still a race. And talked about if Lamar goes on Christmas Day and has the game he had against the New York Giants, I believe he wins the MVP. Obviously, that starts off with the Ravens beating the Steelers, right? So on the Kay Adams show, I think that RG3 has a point where it's like, you can have Josh Allen as your favorite. You can have Lamar Jackson as your favorite. Whichever jar you have your hand in, that's fine. I'm not trying to discredit either player. But to call the race over with literally 3 more games to go, that's a lot of games, by the way. That's a lot of games. That's a sixth of the season. That's a sixth of the season left. I mean, I don't think that is totally fair to either guy. If it was Lamar, I wouldn't say, the MVP race is over, pack it up, see you later. I'd say Lamar's the heavy favorite. But it's not over yet because we still have time. There was always a chance that Josh Allen would overtake Lamar for MVP, even when Lamar was balling out. He was all that anybody would talk about for MVP. On the show, the Up and Adams show, they brought up a graphic of the highest passer rating, single season, NFL history, minimum of 12 starts. Aaron Rodgers, number 1. Aaron Rodgers, number 2. Peyton Manning, number 3. Lamar Jackson this year, number 4. Tom Brady has never had a season that good. Tom Brady comes in behind Lamar Jackson, both from New England and from Tampa Bay. This is historic stuff we're seeing. And so, again, if we're talking MVP, Lamar would trade both of his MVPs for a Super Bowl. Lamar, if he won it again, he'd trade all 3 of his MVPs for a Super Bowl. I think that he's someone that values winning over everything. We know how competitive he is, and we've certainly heard him talk about it over the course of this week already with the Steelers coming to town. To me, it's just about giving the guy who deserves the award. And that's why I think both guys are deserving. Let's see how it plays out over the final 3 weeks. So cool to see a former teammate defending Lamar. Cool to see somebody who's had such an illustrious career as Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl winner, defending him as well. And, hopefully both guys just get their respect and we'll be able to kind of see how this MVP race unfolds over the final 3 weeks of the season. But coming up in the final part of the show, the Ravens have some penalty problems. Nobody's shying away from that. We will talk about the numbers behind it and how they can fix them. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot to get to on the show. First, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy, whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports. PrizePicks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, I'm looking at Jared Goff for more than 230 passing yards and Saquon Barkley for more than 1 touchdown. It's quick, simple, and so much fun to challenge myself and my friends. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. PrizePicks, run your game. And the show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app. It helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending. It helps lower your bill so that you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions or spending habits or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore. I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We are back. Welcome into Locked On Ravens. Kevin Allstriker still here with you, talking Ravens football. Ravens faced off against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday. The Saturday-Sunday thing is just throwing me for an absolute loop. I keep saying I said Sunday. I went on the radio. I said, oh, they're playing on Sunday. Hold on, wait, no, they're playing on Saturday. So obviously this is in the stretch for Baltimore. 3 games in 11 days. They're 1-0. Hopefully they can make it 2-0 on Saturday. There it is, Saturday. But let's talk about how they can do that. And a lot of that has to do with not making mistakes, getting out of their own way. And what I'm obviously leading into is penalties. I think anybody could tell you penalties have been an issue for the Ravens this season. And I put out the stats on social media. It's not good. You know, we are 3.5 months into the season, right? This is month 4 of the year. A lot of time to figure things out. They had their bye week, and how did they respond? Well, they won 35-14 in week 15 coming out of that bye, but they also had 12 penalties. It's not gonna cut it, right? It's not. So here are the stats behind the Ravens penalties through 15 weeks. They rank dead last in nearly every single major penalty category. They have the most penalties against with 117. They have the most penalty yards against with 997. They have the most penalties per game against them with 8.36. The most penalty yards per game against them with 71.21. And the most net penalties per game, -33. And I could go on. I could get into very specific details. But again, almost every major statistical penalty category, they are last. That is not good. And if you're an everydayer, you've listened to me on the show before, you know that my stance on penalties is it's everybody's fault. I'm not blaming it all on coaching. I'm not blaming it all on the players. But both sides play a role. I think it does fall on John Harbaugh. I think it's a matter of him not having his guys ready to play, not having them disciplined enough, and not really rolling through it and going through enough during practice. Because if they were, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this, or at least we'd be talking about improvement, where I thought we saw it before the bye. They only had 4 penalties against Philly. But then you have 12 coming out of the bye, and you're just like, well, back to square one, apparently, in that regard. So, look, it's also on the players. They're the ones, John Harbaugh's not out there tackling guys with hands to the face or roughing the passer or holding or false starting, whatever it may be. The players also have to be more disciplined. It's on both parties, the coaching staff and the players. But here's what it comes down to. Penalties and mistakes in the playoffs are 10 times more magnified. You make a mistake and you need to make that up in a much bigger way than in a regular season game, because it can be tough, especially when you can't commit penalties, lose a game and say, man, let's go improve that and we'll fix it next week. You're out. You're done. See you later. So the Ravens have to get this under control. Obviously, I think it starts in practice and just being more disciplined in general. And obviously, if it's a difference between a sack and a hold, you take the hold, right? I mean, it gives you another shot at the down at least. If it's a difference between a touchdown and a pass interference, you take the pass interference, right? I mean, there are certain circumstances where penalties do work. But for example, the conversation we've had recently, and honestly, for a while now, is Brandon Stevens and the pass interference penalties he's had and what that looks like. What do you do with a guy like Brandon Stevens who still can't get his head around for the ball and is just, seems out of place a lot of the time, right? It's difficult because, you want to give a guy a benefit of the doubt, especially after the year he had in 2023. But this is a what have you done for me now lately league. It's kind of the conversation we've had about Justin Tucker, where if Justin Tucker's name wasn't Justin Tucker, he'd be released a month and a half ago or maybe a month ago because of all the struggles he's had. For Brandon Stevens, I mean, if he didn't have the year he had in 2023, would he still be on the field right now? That's a question that we can answer. We can talk about it. But the Ravens have to fix their penalty issues. I don't necessarily expect them to at this point, if we're being honest. I think this is just kind of who they are, and that's unfortunate. I mean, they can overcome it, but you have to be a disciplined football team if you want to win a Super Bowl. And there's a level of floppiness that you can have or, miscues you can make, but it seems like this is turning into the Ravens' identity. In fact, maybe it already is, where they're just a sloppy, undisciplined football team that has a lot of talent around them and a quarterback who can make up for a lot of those mistakes and defensive talent that now, over the past month at least, has been making up for those mistakes. Now, again, it's on the players, it's on the coaching staff, but you got to be able to figure it out, because if you don't, I would be a little nervous that it could cost them a playoff game. And maybe they turn it on in the playoffs and everything's all good, but the regular season not necessarily super inspiring there. So, hey, what better time to start doing all that than against the Pittsburgh Steelers and making a statement on Saturday afternoon football? Still trying to figure that all out. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Be sure on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. Coming up tomorrow, more Ravens content. We'll be previewing the Ravens and Steelers game and talking a lot more about the latest happenings in Baltimore with the Ravens. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.